Hi everyone, this is my first iteration of testing with my new kit deck. I'm up against Jinteki RP, probably popularized by Dan's win at Worlds. This is my rematch against this opponent. I did not record the first match. This rematch was with this rematch. I know his deck. I know that he's running a standard RP deck with Enhanced Login Protocol and Tollbooth and Ash, and he knows that I'm running a deck running Lucky Finds and my Breaker Suite, which is Yog and Mimic, supported by Datasucker, and Cerberus as the barrier breaker. So, that is basically my deck in a nutshell. It breaks ice for pretty cheap. This is my opening hand and my mulligan hand. As you can see, there are 3 Datasuckers between the 2 hands, but I do not like it. It is quite bad. Datasuckers are actually much more marginal in this deck as compared to most other aggressive decks, especially criminal ones, because Datasuckers do not act like Desperados in this deck. They are solely there to boost the Mimic and Yog so that they can reach the higher strength ice. That is all. An early Datasucker is pretty nice, but it's not something I need to charge. I had no incentive to run archives on this turn or my first turn to charge the Datasucker. I would rather, as in this case, click for an extra credit to bring me up to 6 rather than charge the Datasucker. So yeah. In the meantime, he tells me from chat that he just got agenda flooded. But thankfully he has Jackson in hand, so that should help him alleviate some of those worries. As for me, I'm looking at my hand, which really is terrible because there's no opening economy at all, no prepaid voice pads, so it's a very horrible start. My diesel didn't draw much more, but it did draw me a dirty laundry. So now this is where I want to charge my Datasuckers. A dirty laundry run of archives nets me some much needed money, and at the same time gives me 2 free sucker tokens, which is efficiency. There we go. That's what we want. So in the meantime, his celebrity gives me, he has 5 cards in hand, but chooses to only show me 4 of them, which is really interesting. You can only conclude that he's trying to hide something from me, which is not really worth it considering that he is losing out on 2 free credits by not showing me the last card, and I can more or less assume that it's an agenda anyway. So, feeling hungry for the agenda, and since he showed me a juicy Nisei Mark II in his hand, I couldn't resist the temptation but to run his hand, after installing the Mimic, of course. So I see the Eli, I have to bounce off, then I hit R&D. He does not res the ice on R&D, and I managed to top deck an NAPD off of that. The run arrows do not show on this interface in this game. I apologize for that. You have to monitor the chat for my runs, but I should be commentating on those. Not too much to worry about. But what I do worry about, however, is my economy, which is horribly languishing. Still no prepaid voice pads, still no burst economy. I'm forced to click for cards because I cannot play a quality time. That would bring me down to 2 credits, which means I can't even play a Lucky Find, let alone a Show Gamble. Luckily, with my last draw, I found a diesel. Much needed. With the diesel, I'm able to draw 3 cards at once for free, and this finds me the Lucky Find I need to push me over the edge. And with my last click, I installed the Cerberus with modded. Cerberus costs 4 to install, so using modded on it is a perfectly good way to spend the modded. So yes, now I can break both sentries and barriers, which is always good news. And of course, I have the Yog sitting in hand, but I cannot play it right now. I need to find the Dinosaurus before playing the Yog. This is very important because I'm up against Jinteki. You have to know that they are running Lotus Fields in there. Whether it's 1 copy or 3 copies, you need to have the Dinosaurus at hand in order for your Yog to get past it. It's the only way this deck can deal with Lotus Field, unless you count Tinkering, which is still sitting in my hand. You might wonder why I use Tinkering. Well, this deck does take quite a long time to set up, which is a huge problem. Another problem is that the only source of memory is Dinosaurus, so I couldn't install the Yog even if I wanted to. So now what I did here, seeing that the enhanced login protocol was on the table, it was first I tinkered the outermost HQ ice, and then I ran it with Legwork, knowing that I full well can get through all his ice, and that he has his agenda flooded in hand. He has 2 Niseis that he just showed me with Celebrity Gift. He has 4 cards in hand, which means that by accessing 3 of them, I will snatch at least 1 Nisei. So this is going to work out very well for me. I find myself the Caprice, that's trash, the Nisei, and the Ash, which is also trash. So basically, he spent 1 click and 2 credits playing an enhanced login protocol that did absolutely nothing. That's the power of Legwork. I considered playing HQ interface instead of Legwork because I've modded to install it, but Legwork just gives you so much power. It allows you to bypass ELP and make that crucial run that you need to turn ELP off. Prior to this, I was playing very passively, not even running his R&D because ELP was out. There's no point in wasting clicks running when you aren't guaranteed an agenda. But with the Legwork, I knew full well that I would be up an agenda and have his ELP trashed by the end of it. So it was a waste of time on the corp's part. And the best thing is I forced him to overreact by over-defending HQ. Now he has a 3rd piece of ice on HQ and what seems to be a Caprice Nisei defending it. This is a huge mistake on his part. I know he still has 1 more Nisei Mark II in HQ, but still he needs the ice and Caprice to defend his remote. If he's just going to prolong the game like this, he's not going to do very well because I can close out the game much faster than he can. He needs to get a Nisei scored as soon as he can. Before I get my Yog on the table, he needs to get something done. Alright, so far I've been ignoring his remotes and it's been fine because he hasn't been drawing his Sundews. He isn't able to snowball in credits. All he has is a mental health clinic, which is actually helping me because I can hold 6 cards in hand. Very crucial there. And now I draw with Diesel. I want to contest the remote, but I know he probably has a Lotus Field on the remote because he's so confident that he can install and advance a card without even defending it with an upgrade. So the only other way I can challenge this remote is by forcing his credits to basically forcing his credits down to 0. And I do so by attempting to run R&D. He shows me an Eli, which I easily break with Cerberus. It's so efficient against Eli. 1 credit, and power tokens are free. So 1 credit per Eli break is so good. It pretty much nullifies Eli. So I scored the NAPD. Once again, I top deck it off R&D, and then I hit for the remote, expecting the Lotus Field, but got stopped by a Quandary instead. Unfortunate, but never mind. The last click I can spend, modding in my Dinosaurus. And now I'm 1 turn away from getting my Yog out, which I do right now. I test run scavenge it. So now I have my entire Breaker Suite out. I can start running once I get a good amount of money. In the meantime, he does score that advanced agenda, which turns out to be a Nisei. Not very good news, but I'm still well ahead of him, being on match point now with 6 agenda points. 1 more agenda wins me the game. And I'm in very good shape because he's not very built up, and my deck is pretty efficient at breaking ice. Once again, I run through the Eli, see a hedge fund. It only cost me 1 credit to run. In the meantime, he gets more economy. And my Cerberus is running out of tokens. There's only 1 token left, but I'm not worried at all because in my grip, there are 2 more scavengers which are ready to refresh the Cerberus. And of course, I run 2 single things in this deck, which in the ideal case would be scavengers number 4 and 5 to ensure that my Cerberus has more than enough power tokens for me to score 7 agenda points by the time I run out of scavengers. So that is the sheer power of Cerberus in a faction with so much recursion. Alright, so yeah, in the meantime, there's nothing much he can do really. He spent a lot of time defending his HQ, which I'm not even interested in attacking now. I mean, granted, he was afraid of the same old things that I spam on the table because I could easily same old Legwork if he didn't increase the defenses on his HQ. but this allows me to gain easy access into R&D, which is what I'm doing right now. He apparently placed an Eli on top of his Eli, a very smart thing to do against a deck relying on Green Cerberus. So I was forced to click through one of the Elis, which basically ate up my entire turn, and all I saw was a Himitsu Bako. Very bad news for me, that Himitsu Bako taxes my Cerberus just as much as an Eli does. If he stacks it on R&D, it might very well knock me out. But instead of defending his R&D, he chose to push an agenda into the remote, thinking that my Cerberus was exhausted. Well, can't be more mistaken. Of course I have a scavenge in hand. I scavenge my Cerberus. I choose a server to run. This time I choose HQ. Once again, I hope to drain his credits. He only has 5 credits. There's not much he can res. He shows me a Quandary. That's porous. There isn't even any point resing the Quandary for heaven's sake. Then I break through the Eli, and there's the Caprice at the end of the server, but he chooses not to fire off the side game, so I get a free access on HQ. With 2 clicks left, I'm able to run through the remote server twice, which is extremely important because he has a Nisei token. So, I access a Jackson Howard, that stays there, trash the Caprice, and then I run his remote. And he shows me what ice has been guarding it all along. Yes, it's the wraparound. He knew I couldn't get into the server because of Cerberus, but I managed to scavenge it, and because of that, on my last click, I hit the Future Perfect to win the game. So that's that. My deck is indeed very strong against I won't say it's very strong, but it's pretty decent against Jinteki RP, simply because of all the low strength ice. The End Up Breaker suite is especially effective against Jinteki RP. And the slow speed of Jinteki RP means that I have more breathing room to assemble my entire rig before they get rolling down with the Niseis. In fact, one of the best things that he could have done was to rush out a Nisei immediately. That would drastically narrow down my chances of winning. A very astute corp would have noticed that and executed that to tilt the game in their favor. What I absolutely love about this deck is that once you get your entire rig set up, breaking Code Gate and various subroutines is virtually free. Because Yog costs 0 to break, and Cerberus uses power tokens which are free, and then you can scavenge the Cerberus which costs 0 credits. So basically you're only paying for your sentries. So 1 or 2 Surugis, I don't mind paying through them every now and then. And Mimic is such a powerful breaker in the current metagame thanks to the onslaught of Jinteki and Architect, as well as Caduceus from Blue Sun. So I think this deck will do very well in the current meta. Although that being said, do take it with a pinch of salt because I haven't tried it against any fast decks. The likes of Windows Supermodernism and Astrobiotics could very well crush this deck before it can even assemble 2 breakers on the board. So we'll have to see about that. I'll be playing this as time goes on. Thanks for watching and happy net running. Goodbye.